Hello, hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. Shefali. I'm so excited to be here with the Guidely community, talking about the conscious parenting journey that we as parents are so desperate to take, but just don't know how to. And I'll be focused on my book, The Parenting Map. It's a new book, so you can grab a copy. So let's talk about this thing called parenting. I know, and I know I'm not alone, that parenting is literally the most humbling, painstaking, challenging, mind nerve-wracking journey and mind-numbing journey we can ever get on. So if you had to choose one word to describe the challenge of parenting, today we're going to focus on the challenges. We all know that kids are amazing, kids are lovely, oh, they're so cute when they're asleep, and even cuter when they win trophies. But we're here to talk about the nitty, the gritty, the hard, the tough, because that's where we get stuck. So if you had to choose one word to describe your challenge, what would it be? Mine would be triggering, right? I remember getting triggered for the entire journey of my child's first 10 years. So Nina says, frustrating, a roller coaster. That's a really great word. Gut-wrenching. What other words can we use for this journey? And anyone out there who's not a parent, you need to watch this, okay? I always call listening to parents the most amazing, powerful birth control possible. So watch this if you're not a parent. Frustrating, unpredictable, how to let go. Exactly. How do we let go? What are some other words we would use for this journey? So I know that we all enter this journey with the greatest hopes and the greatest fantasies. I remember thinking that because I was a student of psychology and because I was a mindfulness practitioner, my daughter would be just the most exquisite little Buddha, right? And then we get this child who is, possibly quite feral and wild, and we wonder, how on earth are we going to handle this? These children come to us, as we now have talked about, without a manual. So you are literally, on these turbulent waters without an oar, a map, a paddle, a life jacket, and you're just thrown there. But what we have in our mind as parents, and we don't realize this, is that we have a traditional parenting mindset. We don't realize we have it, but we all do. So for a few minutes now, I'm going to unravel for you your mindset. And you tell me if you have it or not, okay? I'm sure that most of you have it. I know I had it. So what is the traditional parenting mindset? Anyone want to take a guess? Put it in the chat. So the traditional paradigm of parenting out there in the world, in the universe, ubiquitous for every human being, is that, yes, parenting is authoritarian. The parent needs to be in control. The parent is loving, right? We are raised with this idea that a good parent is a loving parent, has full control, and is the authority. Absolutely. The parent is always right. Children are to follow the parents. Children are to be seen and not heard. Children are to obey, to respect. So the traditional parenting mindset really, really messes up with our minds. And I'm going to reveal to you how it does so. And I want you to take notes, pay attention, because this is pivotal. If you are to understand how to become a conscious parent, first you need to understand what is already in your mindset that is in the driver's seat that you may not realize, okay? So let's begin at the start. So when we enter the parenting journey, we enter with this idea, with this fantasy, with this movie. And in this movie, our children are always grateful and respectful. And we are always on top of the totem pole. We are always the righteous ones. We are the superior ones. This fantasy is what we are led to believe is the truth. we don't realize that it's a movie in our head. So when the child comes and we quickly within days realize that we don't know how to control this child, we don't know how to manage this child, we actually feel ashamed, and we feel like a failure because we've been led to believe that this fantasy is reality. So, here we are trying to be superior, trying to be in control, trying to be so loving, and trying to manage and puppeteer this child. But we soon realize the child doesn't stop crying. The child poops when it wants to poop. It sleeps when it wants to sleep. And this loss of control begins early and quickly unhinges us. But because the paradigm is what it is, we feel ashamed and embarrassed because the culture doesn't allow us to talk about the truth. So all of us realize very quickly that our fantasies are crumbling before our eyes. Anyone had that feeling early on that, oops, this is not going according to the plan. I'm actually a really shitty parent. I actually want to like dump my child and run. And we begin to have all these forbidden thoughts about our children, but we feel ashamed and embarrassed. There's no one to talk to because this idea that exists about the parent is that the parent just knows what to do. The parent is always in control. And this idea messes us up. So, yep, Panda says, I felt ashamed that I didn't know what to do. There's this idea out there that because parenting is biological, it should be natural, right? I always tell parents, oh, it's biological. And it's really easy to have a kid. It only takes two horny people. But to raise a child is not natural at all. And actually, this idea that it should be natural, our parents told us that, oh, we just had children and we just did what we could and we never thought about it. My mother always tells me, oh, consciousness. We were never so deeply thinking about our parenting. And I tell her, yeah, look at me. I can tell that you didn't think much about this and I'm suffering because of that. So we were raised to believe that it's natural, it's intuitive. So when it doesn't come naturally to us, I remember within my daughter's first 3 months, I used to have a panic attack if the babysitter was like 10 minutes late. I'm like, where is she? But when she would come, I would act like, oh, I don't want to let go of my baby. I couldn't wait to let go of my baby, right? Because I was exhausted. But those feelings felt like I was the bad one. I was not allowed to say this out loud. So parenting is this deep secret. It's a taboo topic. The real truth of parenting is a taboo topic. And my books try to take that Band-Aid off and really expose the true nature, where we parents can actually begin to reveal honestly how shitty we feel, how crappy we feel, how ungrateful these bloody children are, how exhausting they are, and how no one is winning any trophies that we can post on Facebook about. You're like, hello, we didn't have these children just to have ordinary children, right? I remember my neighbor's daughter was, she had all these trophies, and I would walk into my daughter's bedroom and I would go like, hello, where are the trophies, right? This is why we secretly became parents, because we thought it would make us feel better. But we quickly realized that, of course, it makes us feel better on the good days. But on those other days, it's potentially a nightmare from hell, right? So we're here to talk about that. We're here to really discover and reveal the pain of this so that we can help each other, help ourselves, and come out on the other side. So there are 7 misbeliefs that you have to deconstruct if you want to become a conscious parent. So before I begin, let me ask you, what is your biggest trigger in your parenting process? Before I begin talking about our misbeliefs, what is your greatest number 1 trigger as a parent? Put that in the chat. So the chat is a little delayed, so I have to wait. Communication, kids not listening, power struggles, them not doing what I say. The child says no. Can you imagine these children? They say no to us. The silent treatment, silently ignores. non-compliance, boundaries, my daughter wanting everything she sees, lack of gratitude. When my child shouts at me, non-compliance, disrespect, lying, being so stubborn, schoolwork not done. Do you see? Tantrums. This is not a joyride. This is a ride from hell. That's why we have 2, 3 children. We're like, okay, the first child must be like, just, we were too tired, we were too young, we were too poor, we were too dumb. So let's have child number 2. Big mistake. And even bigger mistake to have child number 3, right? I know there may be 1 or 2 child number 3s here, but oh my goodness. So we keep having these children thinking that we're going to get it right, right? And with each child, it just becomes more of an exponential, disaster. But the good thing is all of us are in the same boat. Every single parent says exactly that, all around the clock. So let's begin with our fundamental misbeliefs. So here in the chat, I asked you, what was your biggest trigger? Now, here's your first misbelief. You believe that your trigger has to do with tell me, who do you think your trigger has to do with? All of you thought that it had to do with the child. So the fundamental first misbelief and lie we parents live with in the traditional model, not the conscious model that I'm going to teach you about, is that the trigger is the child. And you have to really let the penny drop on this one, because the trigger has nothing to do with your child. Children are just being children. And that's why we call it parenting. If it was about the children, we would call it childing, as my friend recently said, or we would call it kidding if it was about the kids. It's called parenting because it's about you. Now, why is this so profound, although so simple? Because we enter the parenting journey with this delusion that I'm going to raise a child. But what we really mean by that is I'm going to raise my little puppet. I'm going to raise my mini me. I'm going to raise this perfect little version of me, a better version of me. Anyone here will admit that secretly you thought the child would be a better version of you. The prettiest version, the smartest version, the most successful version of you, right? This is how we fundamentally have created stress and anxiety in our life. This is the number one problem. We entered the journey on the wrong foot. We thought we are raising a child. And then every single time we had a problem, we blame the child. We scream at the child. We yell at the child. We take the child to the therapist. I can't tell you how many mothers come to me and they're like, okay, here's Johnny. Johnny has ADHD and anxiety, and he's a liar, and he's disrespectful, and he's disobedient, never washes his clothes, and he stinks, right? Fix him, right? And they leave him here. And I'm like, where are you going? And they're like, to get a Starbucks or to get a manicure. And I'm like, no. Johnny needs to sit outside and you need to come inside. And they're like, but I don't have the problem. It's Johnny. And I go, I understand. And when parents come to see that it's all them, they fire me, right? They get really pissed off with me and my business really suffers. This is not good for the business, let me tell you, but it's the truth. So parenting is about you. If you believe it's about the child, you're actually in great trouble. You know why? Because you give the power to the child. Now you're waiting for the child to be fixed. And children cannot be fixed. Just like every human being, the child cannot be fixed, nor controlled, nor managed. But because we believe in the traditional paradigm, it's a fundamental belief that parenting is about raising the child. So what we've done and what was done to us, it was done to you as a child. Your parents thought you were the problem. And do you see how you suffer today? You suffer with low self-worth, with anxiety. You yell, you scream, you have no regulation, you eat too much, you drink too much, you do. So why? because our parents raised us with the traditional mindset that the problem is you, and we're doing the same thing to our children. So the first place to begin walking the path of conscious parenting is to understand that the reason you're getting triggered, yes, let me tell you, children are bloody annoying. They are frustrating, as I said, exhausting. They are everything. They are a nightmare on most days, okay? And they're messy and smelly. And they don't say please and thank you all the way into their 20s. My daughter's 20, I'm still telling her, you're welcome. So it never ends. It just never ends. But they are still being who it is they are. The reason you are triggered is not because they are being who they are. It's because they are triggering something within you that thought something different, that expected something different, that had an ego about it, that wanted control. And that feeling of helplessness that they create in you is the reason why you lose your mind. It has nothing to do with them. And I talk about this in my book, The Parenting Map. So the first step is to understand that parenting is not about the child. Every moment with your child is an opportunity for you to enter a higher state of consciousness. Okay, the second big misbelief is that parenting is about control, right? All of us were raised with this idea that when you're a parent, you have to be in control. And most of us see how little control we have. If we had control, all our children would be superstars and Olympians, because that's what we wanted children for, so that we could go to the Olympic Games. We didn't want to have average children, children who had average problems and acne and, were failing math and needed tutoring and were scared of cats and dogs and everything. We didn't have children to be average. So if we had our way and could control human beings, every one of our kids would be superstars. But here's the truth. We cannot control a single other human being, leave alone ourselves. So control gets thrown out the window. So each time we believe that we should have control, and each time we don't have control, we get triggered, right? We believe that our child is the problem. So when you marry problem number one with problem number two, it's the child's fault and we should have control. Now you have a huge potential for a volcano eruption, because they're two colliding belief systems that go against the inherent nature of the child. So you cannot control your child. And when I tell parents this, it's almost as if they're going to, I've told them that they have a terminal illness, because I've taken away the one thing that is the very reason most of us have children, to have control. Your children are not your proxy method to get control. You can be in charge of your children. You can create the conditions within which they live and survive and thrive, but you cannot manage, control, or dictate their moods, their feelings, their career choices, their decisions, their likes, their dislikes, their sensitivities, the way their brain processes. All of it is out of your control. Control is a fundamental illusion in life, and most certainly in parenting. It is the fundamental illusion of life. Most of us don't have control over the next moment, but we sneakily, somehow, stealthily think we can manipulate and control our children. Now, you can manipulate them. You can scream at them. You can yell at them. You can punish them. And you can get a satisfaction that you're in control. But let me tell you, each time you manipulate your children, lie to them, dominate them, control them, you're going to get a backlash of other emotional crap that you don't want. You and I were raised with control. How many of you here will honestly say that you were raised with control? On a scale from 1 to 10, how much control were you raised with? Put that in the chat. On a scale from 1 to 10, how much control were you raised with? Right, look at the numbers. I'm going to read all of them fast. 10, 9, 10, 11, 8, 4. Lucky you, Deepa. 10, 8, 8, 10, 10, 10, 10, 8, 10, 10, 9 and 3/4, because it wasn't a complete 10, 8, right? So I don't have to read more. One person had a 4, 15, then the other person wrote here. So what are we talking about? We're talking about generations of us, 15, 8, generations of us who have been raised on a strict diet of manipulation, control, domination. And this, you know what this does to us? You know what it's done to you and me? What do you think it's done to you and me? When we're raised with control and parents who are in superior hierarchy, what that does to the child is that it signals to the child that who it is you are as you are is not only not good enough, it's not allowed, it's not sanctioned. So what does the child do with all these feelings of their own authentic spirit? Children are very intelligent. They're survivors. What they do is that they bury those feelings down. They suppress the feelings. Beautiful. Juliana says loss of their own identity. Exactly. So they suppress their feelings. Where do you think those feelings go? Right? Where do you go? They go deep into the earth? No, they get buried within the psyche of the human. And they have an adverse effect on every decision, choice, and lifestyle manifestation of the child from there on. Every. We don't see it, but it's having an effect. So now this kid has been told to suppress who it is they authentically are, but then they're told to be a puppet for their parents. So every child, and you and I included, we began to wear masks, right? And the masks were of the clown, or the people pleaser, or the super successful one, or the super achiever. It didn't matter. You and I knew intuitively to wear a mask to get the crumbs of worth and significance from our parents, all because of the paradigm of control. So in Conscious Parenting, in this book, The Parenting Map, we're talking about here, grab your copy, I talk about how we need to replace control with a profound human-to-human connection. Let's go on to the third misbelief that we parents have. The third one is that a good parent is a loving parent. In this book and in all my work, I always tell parents, can you please love your kids a little less? And parents get so upset with me, but I do this because I love my kid. I yelled at my kid because I love my kid. I told my kid that, you know, they had to work harder, and I made them feel really bad about their grades because I love them, right? And we have this perverse idea that we are doing everything out of love. And let me tell you, it's such a cop-out and such total bullshit, because we parents believe we have the dibs on love. Don't you dare tell me that I don't love my child, okay? You try telling any parent how to parent their kid. You could literally get socked, so don't do it, right? We're all scared to tell each other, hey, you're really a shitty parent. Hey, that was really terrible. We're terrified. You know why we're terrified? Because every parent is so sanctimonious. I do everything for my child. I left my career for my child, every single decision for my child. And this is the problem, right? We believe we're doing all this for our children. So under the carpet is everything for the child, right? We yell at the child, we scream at the child because we love our children, right? And our children, if you ask them, they're like, my mom says she loves me, my dad says they love me, but I feel like really crappy in this house. Most children will say that. And why is that? If your parents loved you so much, and my parents love me so much, and we love our children so much, why is it that generations today are growing up with anxiety, growing up suicidal, growing up self-harming? Well, obviously, it's because our love is not unconditional. Now, I'm not even going to get into a debate about how conditional our love is. Trust me, our love is so highly conditional, so filled with if and then, and we all have secret desires, right? We all have secret agendas with our children. We just pretend as if we don't. You come for a therapy session with me and I'll show you right away how many secret agendas you have. Everything is coming from your agenda, all of it. So if we don't understand that our love is conditional, it is filled with control, possession, and ownership. We will keep pretending we love our children. And guess what happens when we tell our children, but it's because I love you? What do you think our children feel when we keep saying, but I love you, but mommy loves you, but daddy loves you? I lost my shit and I yelled and I took away your car keys and I didn't let you go out and meet your friends because I love you. Everything I do is for love. What do you think the children feel? What do you think the children are consumed by? That love is not good, exactly. That love is not safe. What else? They feel manipulated. They feel confused. They can't trust their parents. That yelling is an acceptable way to show love. Think about that. That love is controlling. They get the wrong message about love. Beautiful. That they have to be good to receive love. And they feel a whole load of guilt, right? Anyone here feels guilty, calls their parents out of guilt, does things out of guilt, feels just guilty living their own life? Guilt is the fallout of parental control and manipulation. So many adults I talk to are living, waiting for the approval of their parents. So many parents and adults now today are living, waiting for mommy and daddy to say, I see you, I feel you, I hear you. Because as children, they never got that. So the fourth big lie about parenting is that we are here to raise happy children. How many of you just want your child to be happy? You can say that. Tell me if that's your greatest desire. I just want my child to be happy. I don't care if they don't make money. I don't care if they are garbage collectors. I don't care if they live in Timbuktu. I just want them to be happy. So why do you think that is a lie? Why do you think that that's a big trap? Anyone here? I know some of you are my coaches here. Why is that a trap to want a happy child? And why does that trap the parent more than anyone else? Beautiful. Juliana says happiness is a state. Chandel says my version of happy may not be theirs. Beautiful. Happiness is a choice. Beautiful. So when we parents say we want happy children, here are the two big pitfalls. Number one, we say we want happiness, but what that means is that we will not accept anything except if it looks like our version of happy. You see? So it's a disguise for non-acceptance. And the second reason why it's a lie is because you want happy children because it makes you feel like a successful parent. So I talk about this big problem in my book because unless you release yourself from this idea of happiness, you will be trapped in it. And what you will end up doing to your child is making them feel as if the only acceptable state of being is to have a smile on their face, which is unrealistic. Life is not always happy. Life is about being in the present, in the here and now. So let's replace the idea of happiness with wanting your children. First, you shouldn't want your children to do anything, but if you are going to want them to do anything, what you should want for them is only one thing: that they have an authentic life experience. Whatever that is, it's theirs. So when you enter this state of inner liberation, you liberate your children. Okay, the next big lie we've been living with is that our children should be successful. How many of you here want successful children? Every one of us. And what do we really mean by success? Anyone want to venture a guess what we really mean by success? What does success really mean for us? That they don't make me look bad. Yes, at a minimum. Yes, that they are rich. Look, money, money, money. I didn't say it. So success is really a four-letter word. Be rich. So when we pigeonhole our children we want successful children. What that means is we want children with the right pedigree, with the right social circle, in the right neighborhood, which just makes us feel so good about ourselves. When we pigeonhole our children in this very narrow way, who suffers the most? Not only your children, but you. So letting go of your traditional ideas of success not only allow your children to be successful, because now you've let go of a definition. So they're allowed to be successful, not do success, but be successful as they are. Now you may be thinking, oh, great, Shefali, because if I let my kid just be, then my kid will just be sitting on the couch all day. So we'll get to that in the Q&A, because I know it's a question you have. But this narrow definition of success, let me tell you, is not only constraining and mind numbing for children, it's so stressful for parents. You all know, you all are sending your kids, when the kid comes home with a C grade, you're losing it because you are under so much stress. And the reason why you're under stress is because you've bought into this idea of what success should be. So in this book, I talk about deconstructing this idea of success, throwing it into the garbage so that you can truly connect with who your child is. And then if your child happens to be rich, that's amazing, but it's not your pivotal only focus. Okay. And then the last one that I want to talk about, the last belief, is that you need to raise a good child, a good child. How many of you tell your children, oh, you're so good? Who is a good child? You and I both know, if we dig deep, that a good child is only one. Who is a good child? Only one quality they need to have if they're good children. Anyone want to guess? What's the primary quality? Yes, they just need to obey us. They just need to not have a mouth, not have an opinion, not have a brain, and just do as we tell them to. And the moment they do as we tell them to, they are the most amazing children. Anyone you know has children who are amazingly compliant? One of my friends has an amazingly docile, compliant, respectful kid. And I can tell you, I don't say it out of my mouth, but in my head, I'm like, oh, what a dream, what a dream, what a dream child, right? Who doesn't want that child? But here's the pitfall of that child. There's a huge, huge pitfall of that child. A child like that, we all want that child, but let me tell you, that child is the ego's biggest lover. What that means is that child literally strokes the parent's ego so much that that parent's ego gets out of control and that child's essence gets squashed. The biggest detonator of the ego is the quote unquote bad child. Anyone here have a quote unquote bad child? The reason I do conscious parenting is because my child was quote unquote so bad. Because my child refused to listen to me. If I yelled at her, she yelled at me more. I got into trouble with her more than she got into trouble with me. She was nothing like I imagined. And this quote unquote bad child shook my ego so much that I was on my knees by her turning 3. And that's when I began this journey of conscious parenting. So when you can reframe the quote unquote bad child to understand, my child is not being bad. The reason I think my child is being bad is because my ego cannot tolerate the challenges that this child is giving me. So there is no bad or good child, actually, because children are just children. The reason we call them good or bad is based on just our ego. So these are the fundamental alterations and mind shifts we need to make as parents if we are going to in any way release dysfunctional patterns of our childhood and enter a new paradigm of being where there's a new earth where children are seen for their essence, where children are guided and ushered for sure, but they are not controlled, manipulated, and decimated in their spirit, so that their entire life is spent looking and foraging for who it is they are. So this is the challenge and the sacred obligation of a conscious parent. But the only way to move toward conscious parenting is to first burn to cinders, to ashes, our old parenting paradigm. So that's what this book, The Parenting Map, I'll hold it one more time, teaches you how to do. How do you let go of your conditioning so that you can truly be present with your children and truly liberate them to discover who it is they authentically are? So that's my little talk for this evening. And I'm going to have Amir come and ask me questions, and then we're going to open it up to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is, I feel like I just want to hear you, listen to you more. And you know, one of the things that we in Guidely, we obviously try to be a place and a home for people who are going through their own life journey. And in many cases, we deal with, you know, purpose and grief and trauma and all of those, and the way we deal with them really are seated in our childhood, because it's just the operating system of how we deal with situations that we program in our kids and have been programmed in us, you know, so deeply that it's almost so kudos, first of all, for the incredible mission and work you're doing.
Oh, thank you. But you're so right, you know, it's our operating system, and we don't realize it is, because it's like the skin we wear, the air we breathe. So dismantling how we were raised is so tricky and so challenging, because we believe that how we were raised is who we are. So part of this journey, and in this book, I teach parents how to separate who you are from how you were raised. And from that separation comes liberation.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And you know, you talk about, I would love to take a step back for a second, and maybe if you want to share a little bit about your personal journey, what got you, and I know you talk about the breakthrough moment, and I would love to hear a little more about that if you can share, but also what got you to that point?
My own ego
Yeah,
crumbling. I think, like every parent, I had such fantasies. And I thought I was going to be like Mother Teresa and the Buddha and, you know, the most peaceful, amazing, wise parent. And within the first 2 years of my child's life, I was like yelling and screaming and waiting for the babysitter, like, I'll pay you, just live with me, don't leave me. And I was like, I'm supposed to love this child. This child is supposed to be like bliss, but I'm avoiding the child. I'm like resenting the child. And I'm being honest here, you know. Of course, there were lots of moments of beauty, but I'm also seeing a lot of, you know, unwholesome things about myself. And I had to really have a come to Jesus moment with myself in my solitude of what is the hell is going on with me? Because no one prepared me for the shadow. You see, everyone was like, oh, so lovely. You're such an amazing mother. You're going to have a great time. This is the best thing that could happen to you. So you feel so embarrassed and ashamed that you don't want to be with your kid, that you don't like your kid. You don't want to get up in the middle of the night 35 times. You don't want to do it, but you can't tell anyone because you are then a bad mother. And especially women, right? We're supposed to be self-sacrificing, abnegating. So when we want to admit that we're selfish, we want to admit that we just prefer going to the gym, we want to go out drinking with our friends, we feel so ashamed, right? Fathers don't feel so much, and I'm being stereotypical, but we women carry the load of this mother guilt. And so when I began to notice the shadow in myself, I had to really confront it. And I had an epiphany. I realized that the ego that I used to look at in my meditation was right here in my parenting. I never thought parents had an ego. I didn't even know it existed. No one talked about it till I began talking about it. And I'm not taking full credit. I'm just saying it was not a known thing. Parents were amazing people, right? Selfless people. So when I realized, oh, that ego that I look at in my meditation, or I look at in my partnership or in my work, is right here in my parenting, I was shocked. I was traumatized, really, because no one, it was like this secret that no one talked about. And then I realized, well, if I have a bloody big, huge, gargantuan ego, do other parents have egos too? And no one is talking about it. And that's when I realized, bloody, no one is talking about their ego and everyone's pretending they're so lovely. I was like, I'm going to write about it. And so I began to write about it. And when I wrote my first book, The Conscious Parent, you know, I don't think but 11 people must have bought the book for like 2 years.
I was one of them.
Because it was so unpopular. It was not, it was so confrontive and provocative, and I remember people telling me, you're going to lose your practice, you're going to lose your license, you won't earn any money because it's such an unpopular message. But I think, I don't even know how it just began spreading. And then eventually, of course, Oprah picked up on it, and then it reached a global audience. But I think what resonated with people is that they began to reflect on their own childhood, and they realized, yep, my parents raised me with their ego. And then they began to see the parallels in their parenting. And I think that was the breakthrough. But it's not easy. It's a very difficult message. It gives people indigestion. I always tell people who come to my audiences, please go out and have a lot of wine after this talk, because I'm so sorry to do this to you, to expose to you that this is your ego. It's so difficult.
Yeah. So, just like with any thing in personal journey, do we have to go through this hardship? Is there a better way? Like, and one of our team member, who is not a mother yet, she's a stepmom, but not a mother, had asked me, would you recommend young couples to first do this work? And is it even possible to do this work before they have babies? Because, it's like I said to her, it's like lifting weights without having the weight. You need the resistance, right?
Right. But I think it's good to, of course, be exposed to the pitfalls. I have many pregnant couples coming to me. Okay, Dr. Shefali, tell us what to expect, and I give it to them. But like you said, till you have that weight in your hand, you can never know, because it's so unpredictable, because no two children are the same. And not only are no two children the same, the match between you and your child is a different match than your child with your partner, and then your child with the auntie, and the child with the grandparent. Each dynamic is very unique. And, you look at your partner and you go, wow, my kid listens to my partner right away. But with me, all this crap, right? Because it's such a unique dynamic. But here's the juice. If you begin to realize that this dynamic is here on earth, in front of your face, punching you in the jaw every day, for you to realize your own awakening, then at least it becomes a little bit more bearable. Yeah. And at least you can lean in and discover things about yourself. And let me tell you, if you lean in toward conscious parenting, as I talk about in my books, it's still hard and it's still frustrating and still annoying, but it also wakes you up to your own, healing. And that's just, no one can do it but your child,
Well, it allows you to be your own authentic expression, and then the rest takes care of itself, right? If I follow your logic.
Yes.
We had the privilege to have here Dr. Gabor Mate a few months ago, and we started the workshop with him, with his son Daniel, and they have a workshop, and their next book actually is going to be Hello Again, which is reformatting, recreating the relationship between parents and adult child. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how effective do you feel this journey is for, not just for young parents and their young kids as they, not kidding, but also for adult, the relationship between, because I feel like, for me, this is just as relevant for my work with my adult children, but I wonder, how do you see a difference? How do you see that?
No, I think it's first, this work is about you. So this entire book that I've written is, if you read it, you would heal yourself, because you would understand what your parents did to you. and how you have created these patterns based on your childhood. So this is about you. So the moment you realize it's about you and you heal your own emotional crap, then every relationship in your life changes. And you begin to see your adult children and your toddlers and your teenagers from the eyes of somebody who's healed. You know, when you heal yourself and see another, you're very different than if you're broken and you are interacting with them. So when you take care of your own inner broken pieces and put them together, every relationship in your life changes. So conscious parenting is about raising yourself. It's about healing you and then healing your children.
I was going to ask you actually earlier that isn't this more of a self-parenting journey?
Yes, yes.
Or,
All healing though is ultimately reparenting, right? What is healing? The reason we're even broken is because somewhere in childhood we believed the lie that we were broken, right? We're not broken. We are completely, amazingly whole as we are. But we believed we were broken because we had parents who were broken, who believed they were broken. So they told us that you're not whole. No, 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 you're not whole. So we were like, we're whole. We were in our diapers, you know, toddling around. We're like, I'm whole, if we could talk, right? We would say, I'm whole, I'm perfect. Look at little toddlers. They're perfect. They think they're amazing, right? Because they are. But they were told by their parents, no, 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 no. Who you are as you are is nothing. You have to begin doing things to be whole. You have to be a musician. You have to learn 10 languages. You have to stand on your head. You have to be nice. You have to be polite. You have to kiss grandma. You have to 1,000 million things by 8 o'clock in the morning, right? So that child goes, oh, I thought I was good enough as I am. And slowly they begin to realize, mommy only smiles really big when I'm very, very good. And when I'm not good, she doesn't look happy. And mommy really is happy when I get her a star from school. And daddy is extra happy when I shoot a hoop, right? Children pick up on it. So they begin to contour their whole being and chisel away to become this trophy child. And the ones who cannot be trophy children, they just become, you know, the defiant, tattooed, rebellious kids because they're like, I can't be good, so let me just try to be bad, you know? So this is the sadness. And so healing is to go back to yourself and now do to yourself, see yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, because it was never done in childhood. What a bloody waste of time, no? So we do all this to come back to ourselves. This is our life. Every single life is only a journey that started in the authentic self, went away from the authentic self, and then the lucky ones come back home. That's it.
so profound. I'm just mic drop, you know. It really is, because when you think about it, we go through so many journeys, whether it's through our career, you know, intimate relationships, business partners, whatever we do is all triggered on that seed of, you know, what we went through as infants and then children and teenagers and whatever, and all the engraved trauma and bad patterns that we're you know, trying to get rid of and heal. So this is so beautiful. I wonder, so in circumstances where there are two partners or husband and wife, or how effective is it if only one partner does this work, or if the child is completely dismissive of this, or, you know, the dynamic around the family? And I understand that clearly it's a journey with myself. It has nothing to do with the others. But how effective have you seen that when others are not really on board with this type of process?
Right. Well, it's a miracle if you get two people on board. It's a miracle if you get one. It's an absolute, you know, shooting star if you get both parents on the same page. So I always tell the parent who comes to this journey without the partner that we don't wait for the partner. One conscious parent is better than zero, right? You know, there's this parenting myth that both parents should be on the same page. I said, no, not if the page is unconscious, right? No, please don't be on the unconscious page. It's good if one is conscious, But yes, is it harder if one is conscious and the other is not? It's horrifically hard. Ignorance is bliss, you know? So when one becomes conscious, then they realize, holy cow, the person I married is so unconscious. And then it eats them up even more. But for the children, it's much better, at least that one is conscious. So they have one place to go to where they feel safe, they feel seen. I write in one of my books that all it takes is one conscious parent, you know, and don't wait for permission or for the other person to become conscious with you. If you're conscious, go, fly with it so that your children see that there is another possibility. But it is hard because when you become conscious, then you suddenly see everybody's rotten apples. And you're like, oh my God, everybody in this house is unconscious, right? You go for Thanksgiving and you can't handle it because you're seeing things that you've never seen before. But this is the process of waking up. You do feel lonely. You will leave a lot of the unconscious matrix behind. And for a while, it's kind of scary because you're like, I'm the only one. But then you meet other people, like the people in your tribe, or come to my tribe. And there are collectives of people that are trying to be more conscious. But this is not the way of the world. This is very unpopular. This is not a popular, you know, entertaining message. This is not a mass media message.
So, you know, one of my biggest life learning has been, you know, boundaries with my kids, with my partners, with in general, and how to create healthy boundaries. At what point can one say no and still be okay with it without shaking up the relationship? Is one of the things that I've been, you know, dealing with throughout my entire life, because I tend to say yes to everything. Even before I'm being asked, I want to say yes. And I, you know, I discussed this earlier with some friends and talked about how do you change that when you've done something, when you've behaved a certain way so many years. How do you break that pattern, whether it's around boundaries or others? But breaking a pattern in, you know, we're living in a society where, you know, we're trying to be mature, not always conscious. But how do you break?
Right. So there are a couple of things I want to say. The reason you say yes to everything without thinking, without checking in, is because, like you said, it's your reflex pattern.
Right.
Because somewhere you learned in childhood to be a pleaser. You're like, I'll be the good guy, I'll be the cheerful one, I'll be the accommodating one. And so it's become a reflex. So saying yes is a beautiful thing, but not when it's unconscious. When saying yes comes out of hunger and lack, I'm the same way, by the way. All people pleasers and saviors, you know, we're rescuers, saviors, empaths, people pleasers. We all have this problem because we learned to give give the bag off our back to the other to be seen. That was our trade. Here, I'll give you my boundary if you just love me. And so saying yes is not lovely when it's coming from unconsciousness. Saying yes is as manipulative as saying no, as no can be. So we're scared to say no because we're like, oh, saying no is so mean. Huh. Saying yes when it comes from unconsciousness is equally, quote unquote, mean. I'll tell you why. Because it's coming from your own hunger. It's coming from an ingenuine, inauthentic place. It's coming from an ego place of, can you love me? Can you love me? Can you love me? Right? So it's coming from inauthenticity and it's coming with an agenda to please love me back. So that yes is not a lovely yes. It's a diseased yes. When I realized that for myself, oh, Shefali, you think you're so nice. I just say yes, and I'm so nice, and I'm just so. When I realized that all my nice was really to get back love, then I was like, I can't do this. I can't trade authenticity for connection, right? We're all trying to trade authenticity for connection. Even the one who's saying no and being so angry is in a way trading it for connection, even though it doesn't look like that. So saying yes is a lie. And when I realized I'm actually lying and I'm not being true, I broke the pattern. So when you begin to become authentic, that means you have to check in with yourself and ask yourself, is this coming from a place of fear, lack, scarcity, or is it coming from abundance and presence and non-fear? And only then will I say yes. Now that's for adults. For children, because we parents like control, we often say no to everything, right? There's that parent who says no to everything. And children need us to say yes. Now, let me explain that. One of the steps in this book is called Finding the Yes. Finding the yes to children and their requests means you don't have to give in to them, but you have to see the essence and the heart of their desire. So when I say to my partner, for example, I want to just travel the whole world. How many of you have said things like this to your partner or your best friend? Oh, I'd love to go to like every seaside next year and go through all the countries on the seaside, something like that. I want to go to the Maldives. I want to go to Mauritius, whatever. All these dreams. I want to go to Hawaii. And your partner goes, oof, you know, you're so silly. You're so stupid. You always just have these dreams. You know, you can't go. You only have 1 week vacation left. You feel immediately demoralized, right? So the partner is right. I am being silly. I only have 1 week vacation. But what that does to the child especially is that it invalidates the essence of their desire. So I teach parents to find the yes in the desire, but you don't have to do anything. You don't have to travel the world. So say your kid says at the age of 3, Mommy, I really want to go to the moon. You don't tell your kid, oh, you're so stupid, you can't go to the moon. Don't you know that? You go, really? Me too. What do you think is on the moon? Now, what does that mean in essence? Is that you meet children and people and adults and your friends and your neighbors where they are at in the essence of the desire. It's not about what you do. It's just about meeting people, saying yes to the spirit of the person. And so many times as parents, in the name of logic, we kill the spirit of the child, no, 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 no. Or we say yes, but it's through this inauthentic place, So that's why self-knowledge is so important, and getting in touch with your own heart and your own essence is so important, and your own playfulness, because children are playful. Children are full of, imagination and magic and wonder, because they live in the world of their heart, not in the world of just plain logic, And so as parents, we need to have this delicate balance of mind and heart, but many of us are not connected. So we just react out of pain, out of fear. Most parenting is fear-based parenting.
This is so profound and touches me and so relevant for me. I want to leave enough time for people to ask, come in and ask questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand with on Zoom. And before we get into Q&A, one of the things that I love the most about this book, more than the 20 steps even, is your poems. They are beautiful and incredible. So do you mind reading us one of your poems?
Sure. I love my poems.
They're really profound. I think you should publish a poem book as a.
So this is the book, guys. You can grab a copy. It's out for pre-order.
Highly recommended. Highly recommended.
I'll read the first poem. I always have poems in my book. Okay, my child. The poem starts with my child. I feel no pain greater than your heartache, no joy greater than your triumph, no agitation greater than your tumult, no despair greater than your desertion. There is no emotion compared to what you invoke, no experience that comes near parenting you, no journey I would rather take than by your side, no adventure I would rather choose than to watch you grow. You, my dear child, are my greatest teacher. Through you, I learn how to love without control, to caretake without possession, and to raise myself before I raise you. In the face of your astounding radiance, I realize I am nothing. Yet the fact that you exist suggests that I am everything, as expansive as your heart and as limitless as your potential. There is nothing I can give you, for you already house the sun within, iridescent and prismatic, inexhaustible and powerful beyond measure. I may give you birth and hearth, but without a doubt, it is you who have given me life and an awakening that I could never have imagined on my own. And therefore, it is you who are my ultimate soul retriever. But they are also
we have tears here.
But our children are also a pain in the ass, yes?
Yeah,
yeah. Let them not think that they are only beautiful. Yes.
They're incredible and gifts and so much more. And they have parts that are challenging, and they have parts that are yes.
They are the whole package. The whole package.
Absolutely. All the things that we need to heal.
Yes.
That's what we ordered.
That's what we ordered. Yeah. And nobody but children can give us. I mean, people and I get into debates sometimes, because sometimes people will say, no, it's the romantic partner that is your greatest teacher. And I always say, no, it isn't, because children, because they are under the illusion of yours, that's where the ego comes up. The partner, yes, we may say my husband and my wife, but we know that we don't own our partner. It's with our children where we possess them that the ego thinks it has its righteousness, and that's why it's such a unique relationship. And I highly recommend it as an ego buster. If you want your ego to really be detonated, have some children.
And the more the merrier. So thank you for this. I feel like my heart just got a little massage.
Yes.
This has been so incredible. I can't even, I feel like I'm speechless, because it's really touching me personally in so many places. I know it touches all of our team members. Teresa, I'm sorry that we're not bringing you up tonight, but feel free to join us. We will have 2 integration sessions. I have some closing comments. I don't want to keep you, Dr. Shefali. I want to say thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for being so generous with your knowledge, with your poem read that I'm going to listen to again.
Thank you. And go grab a copy, The Parenting Map.
Absolutely.
And I really love what you're doing here at Guidely, and it's such amazing work. What a wonderful community. Thank you for having me on a Friday night with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
So for those of you who are still with us, I just want to remind everybody, first of all, we're going to send you a recording of this workshop tomorrow, so you get to watch it again. And we'll have 2 integration sessions with 2 of our incredible guides. Chris Tranny will be holding an integration session Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, and Cynthia Kane will hold an integration session Wednesday, January 25th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I highly recommend you guys joining in, because what we're trying in our integration session to take in what we have done here and really take it to the next level, and really find ways to embody and get a little more. You have an opportunity to work with some of our guides and get more practical tools, and also get some more access to some of our community resources. So we'd love for you to join us. I think we have another event coming up next week. Join our community, by the way, outside of joining our, if you go on the App Store or join, it's free. We have a lot of good events and workshops like this. We have our incredible guides available to answer questions there. And you meet like-minded people that are going through similar life changes and journeys. So join us. And I think our next event is with Coach Dar. She is publishing a book about bouncing back, recovering from major life events. She recovered from 4 strokes. and an incredible bouncing back story. She works with Fortune 50 CEOs. She works with professional athletes all over. So join us for that. And after that, I think we have Nicolas Siani on March 3rd or 2nd. So join our community, join our events. Really appreciate everybody that attended this and stayed for such a long evening. It's been really incredible. Good night.